Meg, you are in all everything, including All-American, coming in. So excuse the levels of hype that are going to be going on in the show, but thanks so much for joining us. Oh, you're muted. Did I mute you? Let's see.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. So, Megan, you had 70 games at Loyola, 21 goals, 23 assists. We do only get you for a year, but that is the nature of this game. We have to ramp up quickly. But first and foremost, let's just talk through you go into the portal. You're a very highly touted player, very well known. Like I said, I had that All-American year, but otherwise just generally very productive, like very consistent and productive. So when you go into the portal, how does Minnesota get on your radar? Were there programs you were considering, or were you just sort of dealing with a deluge of messages like nonstop?
Yeah, I kind of just entered the portal to see what would happen and see who would reach out to me. And then once I started getting a lot of people interested, I kind of like responded to the ones that seemed like the most genuine to me and that I was actually interested in.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, Minnesota just happened to be one that seemed like it could be a good fit at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. What sticks out about a program like Minnesota to a player like you? Because I think, you've been in Missouri Valley, A10, like you've played all these different schools, you've played all these different programs, you've been through tournament play, you've been through it all. Like, what sticks out about a program like the Gophers to a player like you that's had all that experience?
Yeah, I think I wanted a bigger program and kind of a more like competitive conference.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, Erin reaching out to me, her explaining like their program and their culture just seemed very enticing for me as a player to go there. It seemed like somewhere I could really grow as a player.
Right. Well, and you mentioned like once messages start flooding in, I think a lot of players when they get in the portal are just drowning in messages. This really isn't hyperbole. Like, I'm sure it was on a whole different level for you. Like, what is the scale of programs we're talking? Like, is it like dozens? Is it hundreds? Like, it would not shock me if you got like 150 programs like bug, just because the portal is nuts. Like, people don't get, like, the portal is crazy. Like, it isn't. Coaches live in it. Like, they are sending messages 24 hours a day. So what's the scale? Like, what's the scale you had to deal with, like, in your email inbox, in your text, like all of that stuff?
Like the first 4 days were pretty extreme. There wasn't that bad. It was like maybe 50, like overall.
Like, and is it mostly the other thing? So I finally have had a coach that showed me the portal. For years, I've wanted to just like literally see the portal. And one of the kookiest things about it is all it tells you is that a player is in it. But like, it doesn't list your email and your cell or what, like it doesn't, it's not like they literally just click email this person and then it emails you. Like, they have to go get your email, whatever. So is it almost all emails, or do they like hunt around and get your cell? Like, what's the vibe?
Some of them, I mainly got emails. Some of them like would reach out to my like coach at Loyola and like get my number, and then I got like a couple texts. And then like once I responded to coaches, I would like text them because it's just like easier that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the first day I entered, I just like threw my phone away. I was like, I need a day to like process.
Well, it's like, it's also, it's that the moment you're officially in it is also sort of a culmination of a very like draining process. Even if everything is amicable and everything goes great and blah, 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 it's still this like huge thing you have to deal with of like, okay, now I've personally decided, okay, now I've told some people, okay, now I've told the coach, okay, now I've told the team, okay, now it's official, okay, now I'm in. It's like the culmination moment too of probably just like, like finally I'm just in it.
Yeah. It's very like, it's like once you're in it, like you're in it now, you're like, oh, okay, now there's no going back.
Right.
But yeah, it's a crazy process. But
so you have those dozens of folks reach out, at least like the cold email thing of like, hey, Megan, love your game. We'd love to have you here, blah, blah, blah. and then in your head, plenty of those are sort of automatically not on the radar, and some of them are sort of on the radar, and some of them are like, oh, interesting on the radar. How do you even go about parsing those options you have? So like, let's pretend all of them offered you the same thing. You thought all of them were good to some degree. Then how do you even go about, sort of reviewing those options? Like, do you try and watch some film, or is that like way too long and boring, so you just try and talk to the coach? Like, do you scroll players on social to see what their vibe is? Like, do you just look at stats? Like, what do you even use to try and compare those programs?
Yeah. I mean, even in my like when I was like in high school, like looking at schools, I always kept like my like a small pool of schools I was looking at. So
Uh-huh.
like this time around, I basically did the same thing,
Okay.
and I knew I wanted to stay like semi like local, like
Okay.
Midwest. So I mainly like looked at that, and then I would just look at like I would go on the school's like website, look at like stats. I didn't watch any film really, but
Well, it would
yeah,
be,
I just
honestly, it would just take too much time. Like, even if you
yeah.
wanted to and you were like a film person trying to watch like multiple teams and like multiple games of multiple teams, it's like, no, that's a job. Like, no, screw that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I'm not the one playing. I'm like, so it's just weird. I don't know. I
Right,
just chose not to watch any film,
right,
but you could get a good feel of like a team just like talking to the coach and looking at like the
right,
girls on the team and
right. What's the, and I'm really curious too. I mean, once you're actually talking to Erin, and Erin, you said, part of Erin's appeal was it seemed like that outreach was genuine and like she came across well and all those things. But what's her pitch to you? I mean, like, what's the way that she said like, hey, this is how you would fit. This is why you would fit. This is what we do. Like, what's that pitch?
yeah, so I think I had played against because she used to coach at DePaul, so I played against her my freshman and sophomore year, so she did kind of know me as a player.
Right.
So that I think helped her like she's like, I know you, I know how you play, you would fit in really well with our team and our style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, she knew I wanted to like go somewhere where I could grow and like get to that next level. And I think, yeah, she basically pitched her like coaching staff, like she had a lot of confidence in being able to get me where I want to go.
Right. Yeah, like we have a player who's literally been an all everything college player who then went to the NWSL, like who's like
Yeah.
in Maya Hayes. It's like, what other forward coach like do you want? Like, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, and I'm curious too, just for, if fans have not watched a ton of like Loyola soccer or happened to not see you when you played in summer league squads, which I know actually that's why I've seen you play a couple times too. But if folks haven't seen you play, how would you describe your game? Like, what would you say your strengths are, and what do you try to bring to the table?
Yeah. I think my strengths are definitely speed and like just work ethic. I think my like work engine's pretty big, so I can go for a long time without getting too tired. And then yeah, just ability to take people on like 1v1 and get to goal.
Uh-huh. It's, I mean, it's dangerous you saying you have a high work rate, because Erin has been known to let killers stay out there and be killers. Like, there was games like 2 years ago where like Meg Gray and Kenna Bison were going 90 even as outside mids. Like, Sophia Bowman's a Terminator. This team is like, she's racking up Terminators. You all are wild. So there's been, I think I mentioned in a previous one of the previous players, there's been some tweaking as Erin sort of finds the right way to sort of fit players with each other and find the right tactics and all those different things. But let's pretend that like the 4-3-3 is what sticks, and it's a pretty standard like three top, or three up front. Do where in that formation do you think you naturally fit best? Is it sort of that outside wing and you just like stretch the hell out of the defense and just make outside backs' lives a living hell? Is that the thought?
Yeah, I think I would be most like beneficial out on like the right wing, but
Okay.
just like yeah, taking that space, getting like end line, crossing it back. That's
Uh-huh.
like pretty much what I've done for the past 4 years. So yeah.
Nice. I will say I watched some clips like I watched some clips of you just sort of embarrassing defenders, and it was getting me pretty jacked for sure. I was pretty psyched. I will say, and now in the background, not in the show, Jordy is here, and so now she does get to hear this. The word on the street is Jordy is really good in the air. She's sort of a standard tall center back type player type that's good in the air. But Megan, we both know you had a header goal like on a corner kick. Like, are you going to challenge that aerial supremacy as like a big dog 5'3" winger? Are you going to bring an aerial threat to the team? Is that going to be something?
I mean, I'm not saying it's not gonna happen. So if the ball comes to me, I'm jumping for it.
That's great. I mean, you said speed is your game, but like, yeah, go in, be an aerial threat. The team needs it for sure. Well, and Megan, is there anything about you're obviously, I think you're from Illinois, right? And then you were in Chicago. What
Yeah.
about Minnesota? I also need to throw this at you. What about Minnesota are you excited about trying now that you're up here? What sort of absurd stereotypical crap are you looking forward to testing out for real now that you're up in Minnesota?
I think what is it? Curling isn't that big.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe do that.
You'll do curling? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there's no
Test
other
that.
like there's no other stuff that you've seen in like silly like the movie Fargo or like Mall, do you have Mall of America vibes? Like what's the stereotypical?
I've been to Mall of America, but
Actually, this is a better question. What is the stuff as an Illinois person that you think of Minnesota? Like top 5 things you think of Minnesota? Do you just think of the accent, snow, Mall of America, and like cheese curds? Like what's the stuff that Illinois people think
I
about Minnesota?
I grew up with my mom, like, watching Mary Tyler Moore, like, the show, so
Yes, that's great.
that's kind of where my mind goes,
Okay.
but yeah.
You are the only 20 something in the entire world who would give that answer, by the way.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, Barry Tyler Moore. And then when you came up to like what other stereotypes were you expecting to get hit in the face with? Like you come to campus, were you just waiting for people to say like, "Oh yeah." Like what were you expecting when you come up?
Yeah, mm, like, hockey players, like, saying bag, like, big, uh, stuff like that.
That's great. That's great. Well, Megan, be careful. I actually think an equal time feature of you going curling is in the future now. So dangerous. No one can mention stuff on these shows because I will do content around it. So that will happen. Megan Nemec, all everything. Incoming winger transfer for the Gophers. Excited to see you this fall, Megan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.